Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CAPCOG's Criminal Justice Grant Workshop. My name is Karina Trevino. I am the Community Development Coordinator here at CAPCOG, and I'm going to be giving you this workshop training today. We will be discussing a few different things during the workshop. The first one being funding opportunities, and then we will jump into eligibility requirements, and then we'll go into CAPCOG policies and processes. And then lastly, I'm going to be talking some grant application tips and resources. Funding opportunities. One thing that makes CAPCOG unique in this source is that we have a contract with the Office of the Governor, and in that contract, we are charged with prioritizing 4 different funding categories for the Office of the Governor. Those 4 are the Criminal Justice Grant Program, often referred to as DJ. DJ promotes public safety efforts, crime reduction, and system improvements. This fund source usually is used to purchase equipment for different cities. It can also be used for training. It can be used for reentry services. There's a long list of things that this grant program covers, but that's just the top 3. Juvenile Justice and Truancy Prevention Grant Program, also known as JJ&TP. This fund source is open for projects to prevent violence in and around schools to improve the juvenile justice system by providing mental health services, truancy prevention, and intervention through community-based and school-based programs. A lot of the different projects that come through this fund source are a lot of school-based programs, and then a lot of community programs. Anything that just helps juveniles get back into school and focus on those sorts of things. The next fund source we're going to be talking about is General Victims Assistance Grant Program, VOCA. VOCA is a fund source that provides services and assistance directly to victims of crime to speed their recovery and aid them through the criminal justice process. A lot of this fund source is domestic violence shelters. It can be used for equipment purchases related to victim services, like victim notification software. This is probably the most sought after fund source that we have, meaning it's the one that gets the most applicants every year. Next is Violence Against Women Justice and Training Program, also referred to as VAWA. VAWA is a fund source for projects that promote a coordinated, multidisciplinary approach to improve the justice system's response to violent crimes against women, including domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. A lot of the programs that get funded through VAWA is a lot of training programs, some prosecution type of program, something along those lines. Now that we've discussed our funding opportunities, I do want to take the time and notify everyone that we have 2 funding categories that have a match requirement. The 2 funding categories are VOCA and VAWA. VOCA has a 20% of the total project match requirement, and this can be met with in-kind and cash match. VAWA has a 30% of the total project match requirement, and this can be met with in-kind and cash match as well. The only exception that we have is if you are a victim service provider and or a Native American tribe, you are exempt from the match requirement. All this information and much more can be found on the funding announcement. To locate your funding announcement, you'll first have to go to the eGrants website, which is www.egrants.gov.texas.gov. On this website, in the top right corner, you will click Funding Opportunities, and then you will select Active Opportunities. The Request for Applications, or the RFA, provides detailed information about the funding source, including the eligible organizations, allowable activities, and allowable costs, program-specific requirements, eligibility criteria, and anything that is prohibited. I do recommend that everybody locate the RFA for the intended fund source they intend to apply for and read the RFA to the full extent. Know everything that is allowable and unallowable, and also just familiarize yourself with the different things that can be funded through this program. Now that I've showed you the RFA, I do want to give you guys a previous year review. Last year, we had a total of 55 applicants. 21 of those applicants were General Victims Assistance applications. 4 were Violence Against Women applications. 17 were Criminal Justice applications. 7 were Juvenile Justice applications. And 6 were Truancy Prevention applications. In this next section of the workshop, we're going to be discussing eligibility requirements. But before we do that, I do want to go over some acronyms that I'm going to commonly refer to throughout this section. The first one being OOG. OOG, it means the Office of the Governor. This is the granting agency for which you are requesting an application from. Next is PSO, the OOG's Public Safety Office. This is a smaller branch within the OOG that are often referred to as well. Third is CAPCOG. This is the Capital Area Council of Governments. Right now you are attending a workshop hosted by the Capital Area Council of Governments. We are a region-based organization that focuses on region needs. And the last one, CJAC. This is CAPCOG's Criminal Justice Advisory Committee. It's a committee made up of 18 people from different criminal justice disciplines around the region. This is also the committee that scores your grants and prioritizes all grant applications. Next, let's discuss some eligibility. So who is eligible for a grant? The OOG criminal justice grants are open to a variety of applicants. The main ones include state agencies, public and private institutions of higher education, independent school districts, Native American tribes, councils of governments, nonprofit, corporations, including hospital and faith-based organizations, and units of local government. To ensure that your entity is eligible to apply for a grant, please refer to the request for application or the RFA. The OOG also has other requirements for funding, specifically tied to which type of organization is applying for a grant. For example, I have 4 different requirements from the OOG for local units of government. The first one is local units of governments must comply with the cybersecurity training requirements. Government entities must annually certify their compliance. A copy of your training certification must be uploaded to your eGrants application. Please note that every year you must comply with all cybersecurity training requirements, and that must be uploaded in your application every year. Applicants operating a law enforcement agency must be current on reporting complete UCR data to the Texas Department of Public Safety for inclusion in their annual Crime in Texas publication. To be considered eligible for funding, applicants must have submitted a full 12 months of accurate data to DPS for the most recent calendar year by the deadline established by DPS. Another requirement is that in accordance with Texas Government Code, any facility or entity that collects evidence for sexual assault or other sex offenses or investigates or prosecutes a sexual assault or other sex offenses where evidence has been collected must participate in a statewide electronic tracking system developed and implemented by the Texas Department of Public Safety. For more information, visit DPS Sexual Assault Evidence Tracking Program for more information. The last requirement is that all local units of government must comply with all aspects of the programs and procedures utilized by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, related to illegal aliens in agency custody. Each local unit of government must download and complete and upload into eGrants the CEO/law enforcement certifications and assurance form certifying compliance. Below I have 4 other requirements from the OOG, and this is related to all agencies. All agencies must complete these 4 requirements in order to be eligible for funding. Eligible applicants must be registered in the Federal System for Award Management, also referred to as SAM, database, and have a unique entity ID number assigned to the agency. To get registered in the SAM database and request a UEI number, go to sam.gov. Nonprofit, local units of government, or other political subdivisions, you must also upload a resolution from your governing body to the grant record. Sample resolutions are available on eGrants. Entities receiving funds from the PSO must be located in a county that has an average of 90% or above both adult and juvenile depositions entered into the computerized criminal history database maintained by the Texas Department of Public Safety as directed in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Some programs may have additional eligibility requirements listed in the program-specific requirements section of each RFA. It is very important that all applicants review their RFA and ensure they are meeting all requirements. Next, I'm going to show you where to find these forms. All forms needed for applications can be found on the eGrants website. In the top right corner, you will click on Resources, then scroll down to select Forms. Download the forms that you need based on your organization and the funding source you are applying for. All of them should be listed in this section and available for your quick download. Next, I'm going to be discussing how to get your application started. The application for the criminal justice grants are found through the Office of the Governor's eGrants website. To apply for a grant, the first thing you must do is create a login to an eGrants account. First, you will go into the right-hand corner and click Login. If you have a login account already, you can go ahead and enter that information now. If you do not have a login account, you're going to have to create one. So you will register as a new user and then create your account. eGrants is set up to have 3 different grant officials. Each grant must have a project director, a financial officer, and an authorized official. No person could serve in more than one of these roles. The authorized official is usually a county judge, mayor, city manager, chairman of a nonprofit board, head of state agency, or executive director. The financial officer must be either an employee or a board member and should be the chief financial officer, auditor, or treasurer of the board for the grantee agency. And then lastly is the project director. The project director must be an employee of the grant agency, and this is usually the person that is head of the project and knows every aspect of the project. All of these users must create their individual eGrants account. Please note, you cannot finish your application without having 3 individuals assigned to an account. Please note, if you do currently have an account and you have not logged in a while, I do encourage you to go in and log in. Every 90 days, eGrants requires a new password to be set for each account. So go in and make sure your password is up to date. Once you have an account for all 3 grant officials, you are ready to get started on your application. eGrants is organized through tabs. To begin your application, you will select the Apply tab, marked below. After you select Apply, the system will guide you through the process. A useful document to have nearby is the eGrants Guide to Creating an Application. Please note, it is important to provide yourself plenty of time to complete the application. Applications are due February 13th, 2025. Asking for assistance on the due date is not recommended. To locate the eGrants Guide to Creating an Application, you will first go in the right-hand corner and select Resources. After selecting Resources, you will select Resources again, and then you will scroll down to Guidance Documents. Under Guidance Documents, in the first tab, you will see Application Resources. This will provide you a long list of items that you could need for your application. The first one is called Creating an Application. This will be the document you will refer to throughout the application process and is very helpful for you to have nearby. Now to recap and to give you some final reminders, the application for criminal justice grants can be found through the Office of the Governor's eGrants website. New users will need to create an eGrants account today. Existing users, to ensure your login credentials for eGrants is up to date, as passwords expired every 90 days. Identify 3 individuals that will serve as your authorized official, financial officer, and project director. Ensure they all have an eGrants account. The authorized officials' logins will be the only login that can submit your application. Please ensure this specific person has the proper credentials. And finally, applications are due February 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. If you require any assistance or want to ask any questions, I do recommend you reach out prior to the deadline to ensure speedy submission. Next, we will be discussing CAPCOG's policies and processes. Just like the OOG, CAPCOG has their own policies and processes when it comes to scoring and prioritizing the different grants in the criminal justice funding categories. Let's first discuss CAPCOG's relationship with the Office of the Governor. I mean, it is strange you are sitting in a CAPCOG grant workshop, but you applied for an Office of the Governor grant. So let's talk about it. CAPCOG's executive committee is designated by the Office of the Governor to establish and create the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee, also called the CJAC. The CJAC's main responsibilities include reviewing grant applications, project summary sheets, and presentations. They then score and prioritize applications based on this established criteria and send it to the Office of the Governor. CAPCOG staff also plays a key role in the process. Staff prepares plan year documents such as score sheets, project summary sheets, and timelines, along with other supporting documents. They then distribute information related to the grant process on the website and also do email distribution. Staff also provides technical assistance to applicants or interested grantees. Then at the end, we submit all the scores and grant prioritizations to the Office of the Governor. I do have my contact information below. If you ever require any technical assistance, I am available to help you. Now that you are familiar with all the different roles in the application process, I want to go ahead and jump in and discuss our CAPCOG policies. Every year, CAPCOG establishes criminal justice priorities. These priorities are usually based on a survey released in the fall and are used by the CJAC as a grade application site year. The survey contains 4 different topics of discussion: juvenile justice in school systems, criminal justice systems, mental health / substance abuse, and lastly, victims of crime. This year, the priorities are violence prevention in relation to juvenile justice and school-based systems, training and equipment for law enforcement in relation to criminal justice systems, crisis intervention services in relation to mental health / substance abuse, case management / wraparound services for mental health and substance abuse, and lastly, crisis intervention services in relation to victims of crime. These priorities serve as a basis for our criminal justice grant program and are often referred to, especially when it comes to scoring. I will jump back to these priorities later on in the presentation. Now that we are discussing scoring, let's go ahead and discuss some of CAPCOG's requirements when it comes to scoring. In addition to the requirements established by the PSO, CAPCOG's policy statement also establishes several requirements that may have consequences to the score of an application for those that do not adhere to one or more of these requirements. The application can still be reviewed by the PSO and are eligible to receive funding, but are likely to receive a lower score and a lower funding recommendation from CAPCOG. The 3 requirements are listed below. Number 1 is attend a grant application workshop. CAPCOG will conduct a grant application workshop that will be open to all prospective applicants to attend. Next is submit a project summary sheet. A project summary sheet is a form provided by CAPCOG. The project summary sheet includes several questions about the application and the proposed project and is used to help the CJAC during the review and scoring of applications. And lastly, presenting projects to the CJAC. A representative of the applicant who is familiar with the application and the proposed project will be allotted 5 minutes to present information about the application to the CJAC and must be prepared to address questions from the CJAC members. Now let's discuss the first requirement, attending a CAPCOG grant workshop. CAPCOG will schedule and hold a grant application workshop to discuss funding opportunities provided by the PSO. If a representative of the applying organization attends a grant workshop, and all of the organization's applications will receive 5 points. So everyone that is currently in this workshop right now will be receiving 5 points. If an organization does not have a representative attend a grant workshop, all that organization's applications will receive 0 points for the grant application workshop attendance component. These grant workshops often discuss important things that we would like all applicants to know and are also very helpful. We have noticed that those that attend a grant workshop do exceptionally well when it comes to writing an application. Last year, and plan year 2025, the applicants that attended the workshop were 91% more likely to submit a project summary sheet to the CJAC, which overall increases their score. So it is very important for all applicants to attend a grant workshop. It is beneficial information and it also increases your score. The next requirement is submitting a project summary sheet. A project summary sheet should be submitted for each application. The project summary sheet includes several questions about the application and the proposed project that is used by the CJAC during the review and scoring of applications. If a project summary sheet is submitted for an application by the deadline of February 13th, the applicant will receive 10 points. If a project summary sheet has not been submitted for an application, the application will receive 0 points. I would like to highlight some new changes that are going to be occurring with project summary sheets this year. Project summary sheets are now available on an online form, which will be beneficial to applicants as it's going to be easier to navigate and more customizable based on what you're applying for. Also, I would like to note that you will receive an email verification after you submit a project summary sheet, which will be beneficial because you will get verification that your project summary sheet was submitted on time and also verification that your project summary sheet was submitted correctly. I would also like to highlight that this year we will be accepting late project summary sheets. I do want to encourage everyone to submit a project summary sheet on time, but if you do happen to submit a project summary sheet late, you are eligible to receive up to 5 points for the late submission. But please note, this must be submitted no later than 5 days before the first day of presentations. Now you may be asking yourself, how do I access and submit a project summary sheet? First, you're going to navigate to CAPCOG's website, www.capcog.org, and then in the top banner you will see a button that says Services. Click the button and then locate Criminal Justice and Public Safety. After navigating to that page, you will scroll down a little bit, and on the right-hand side, you will see Complete a Project Summary Sheet button. Please click the button and it will take you straight to the page. If you have any questions or have any concerns, please contact me. Project summary sheets are due to CAPCOG February 13th, 2025. The last CAPCOG requirement is a presentation. A representative from the agency who is familiar with the application and the proposed project should attend the presentation meeting. The applicant representative will be given 5 minutes to present information about the application to the CJAC and must be prepared to address questions from the CJAC members. Failure of an applicant to present its application to the CJAC could adversely affect the scoring and funding recommendation, as 25 points are associated with the project presentation component. Please present your project to the CJAC to enhance your application and overall score. Next, let's discuss the timeline of all these events. Every year, CAPCOG releases a PY 2026 timeline. This timeline has a list of dates that are very important when it comes to the application process. As you can see, the first 2 bullets are the in-person grant workshop and also the online workshop. The next bullet is February 13th, 2025, which is listed as the eGrants application due date. February 13th, 2025 is also the deadline to submit a project summary sheet and receive your 10 points. The following deadline is March 13th, 2025. This is actually a deadline for CAPCOG. This will be the day that CAPCOG will release a presentation sign-up. Every year, we allow our applicants to select a time to come and present their project. Please note I do have in parentheses, ideally. This is because our timeline is largely dependent on the OOG and their distribution of applications to us. March 17th, 2025 is also the date that CAPCOG plans to distribute the presentation schedule. Please note March 13th and March 17th may be spring break. Please keep an eye on your email as those 2 emails will be sent out during that time frame. The most important dates on this timeline is March 24th through March 26th, as these are the dates that applicants will be asked to come and present their project to the CJAC. Please highlight these dates on your calendar and be prepared to present any one of those days. April 9th, 2025 is when Executive Committee will vote on all funding recommendations. If you have any questions, please let me know. The PY 2026 timeline is available on the CAPCOG website, and I have a QR code here. Now let's continue discussing some policies, specifically concerning goals of the CJAC. A goal of the CJAC is to address regional criminal justice needs by encouraging the establishment of beneficial programs and continuing funding them with the goal of progressing them towards self-sufficiency. To encourage long-term sustainability, the CJAC has established a set of policies to guide local government applicants toward achieving self-sufficiency. With this goal in mind, CAPCOG has created a policy related to local government applicants. Local government applicants are on a 4-year cycle limit. This is to promote internal long-term project sustainability. As we are discussing this 4-year cycle, I do want to highlight that CAPCOG has a list of definitions in the policy statement. These definitions are located below just for a quick reference. New projects are applicants that are submitting a project for the very first time in PY 2026, this year. Continuation projects is a project that was funded in any previous plan year, having the same applicant, serving the same target group, and having a similar scope of work regarding the area served, the personnel proposed, and the services offered as determined by the CJAC. If you look at the highlighted chart to the side, you will see CAPCOG's continuation project limitations. This highlights the 4-year plan cycle for those local government applicants. In year 1, applicants that are submitting a project for the very first time in this plan year, 2026, you are eligible to receive up to 100% of the requested amount. Year 2, applicants that first received funding in plan year 2025, which was last year, they are eligible for 80% of the first year of funding. In year 3, applicants that receive funding in plan year 2024, they are eligible to receive 60% of the first year of funding. And the 4th year, applicants that received a funding in plan year 2023 are eligible to receive 40% of the first year of funding. Lastly, we have progress projects. These are a continuation project that first received funding in plan year 2022 or earlier. These projects are now outside of the 4-year cycle, and the maximum amount of funding they are eligible to receive is $0. Here is a deeper look on the continuation project limitation chart. And for more information, please visit section 8.11 of the CAPCOG policy statement. A lot of people may be asking, why is it a 4-year limit when it comes to local government applicants? Funding provides an opportunity to establish programs, and programs should aim to secure long-term independent funding. After 4 years, the CJAC believes programs are expected to move towards other funding sources or self-sustaining models. Let's talk about an important guideline for submitting your applications, starting with how many you can submit and the process of ranking them. First, each applicant is limited to 3 applications per funding source. This helps ensure fairness and allows us to review projects in a manageable way. Next, applicants must rank their submissions by priority on their project summary sheet. You'll need to clearly identify which is your primary application, the highest priority, your secondary application, your second priority, and tertiary application, your lowest priority. Ranking your project is important because it gives us a clear idea which project matters most to you. Now, here's a key point. If you do not rank your applications, CAPCOG will step in and rank them for you. This means the decision about which project is your top priority will no longer be in your hands. For example, if you have one project that urgently needs funding but forget to rank it, CAPCOG might assign it as your tertiary application, which could decrease its chances of funding. So it's in your best interest to complete this step. Let's talk about an important update to our scoring process for applications. This year, we have revamped our system to prioritize fairness and merit. In the past, applicants were grouped and scored based on applicants' self-identified project preference, whether it was listed as a primary, secondary, or tertiary. While this approach allowed applicants to prioritize their submissions, it sometimes created an imbalance in how projects were evaluated. Under the new system, every application will be evaluated and scored solely on its merit. This means the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee, or the CJAC, will focus on the quality of the application, how well the project aligns with funding priorities, and the potential for the project to create a meaningful community impact. This ensures a level playing field where every project is given equal consideration regardless of how it's ranked. Your input is still important. On your project summary sheet, we'll ask you to explain why you ranked the applications the way you did. This gives the scoring committee a valuable insight into the strategic value you see in your projects, helping us better understand your goals and priorities. If you have any questions or want more details, please refer to the CAPCOG Policy Statement 6.2 on application limitations. This section has all the information you need to navigate and update this process. Now let's discuss scoring factors. An applicant's score is composed of two parts, an objective score and a discretionary score. The objective score has two components, which are all dependent on the applicant's performance during the application process or the submittal of materials. As mentioned earlier, it's 0 or 5 points for a grant application or workshop attendance. CAPCOG schedules the grant workshop to discuss funding opportunities provided by the PSO. If a representative of the applying organization attends, all the organization's applications receive 5 points. 0, 5, or 10 points is associated with the submission of a project summary sheet. Applicants are to complete and submit a project summary sheet. If a project summary sheet has been submitted for an application by the indicated deadline, the applicant will receive 10 points. If a project summary sheet is received after the indicated deadline and no later than 5 days before the presentation meeting, the applicant will receive 5 points. If a project summary sheet has not been submitted for an application, the application will receive 0 points for the submission of a project summary sheet. Applicants that receive a total and final score less than 70 points will receive a funding recommendation of $0. Next, let's talk about discretionary score. The discretionary score has three components, which are all dependent on the applicant's performance regarding regional priorities and written application and their presentation based on the individual CJAC member's discretion. 0 to 10 points will be associated with regional priorities. All applications that are forwarded to the CJAC for scoring will be eligible to receive up to 10 points as determined by the scoring of individual CJAC members. 0 to 50 points for a written application. All applications that are forwarded to the CJAC for scoring will be eligible to receive up to 50 points for the written application component of the discretionary score, as determined by the scoring of the individual CJAC member. And lastly, 0 to 25 points for project presentations. All applications that are forwarded to the CJAC for scoring will be eligible to receive up to 25 points for the project presentation component of the discretionary score. And of course, this is determined by the individual CJAC's member discretion. Here's a look at the score sheets that CJAC will utilize during the scoring process. Please note this year we do plan on moving to electronic scoring. For those of you that have applied before, probably have noticed that we used to do paper scoring where CAPCOG staff will go around and collect the paper score ballots of each individual CJAC member. This is now going away. We will now be doing electronic scoring. So this year when you guys come in, we'll probably notice a lot more laptops and a lot more clacking on keyboards. I do want to highlight where to find these documents on our CAPCOG website. Please go to www.capcog.org and then proceed to go to Services. And then locate Criminal Justice and Public Safety. Once you navigate to that page, you will be able to see all the different documents I have mentioned in this workshop. Along with that, you're also going to find some important dates and other funding opportunities. Please navigate to this page anytime you have any questions in relation to the criminal justice process. We are now at the final portion of our grant workshop. I want to give you guys some grant tips and resources for you guys to utilize while you're creating your applications. The first resource I have is actually the eGrants website. eGrants will have a list of resources and guides at your disposal. The first document I want to mention is Guide to Grants. Guide to Grants is a perfect guide when it comes to grant management. Another document is the eGrants User Guide to Creating an Application. This was mentioned throughout the workshop at the beginning, and it's a step-by-step guide on how to create an application. Next, let's talk about grant management. These grants are a cost reimbursement grant. If your project is funded, your agency will spend the money first and then request reimbursement from the PSO after. Please note all expenses must be approved by the OOG prior to purchase to ensure items are eligible. Financial and progress reporting are required throughout the grant process. I would like to provide you guys some tips from the CJAC, which is the scoring committee that is going to be scoring your grants. Every year, they ask applicants to align their budget with the application story. Your budget should be reflective of the narrative in your application and address all potential questions a founder may have. This includes the who, what, when, where, why, and how. For example, equipment grants. Who will use this equipment? What specific equipment are you purchasing and what features or components does that include? When? When will the equipment be deployed or put to use? Where? Where will the equipment be utilized? Specific locations, vehicles, offices, etc. Why? Why is this equipment necessary? How will it solve a problem or improve operations? And how? How will this equipment benefit your community or your organization? Additionally, providing a cost breakdown, for example, the equipment unit cost per item, accessories or additional components, and installation fees. Here's a good example. The City of CAPCOG is requesting 5 laptops at $2,000 per unit, totaling $10,000. Each laptop will include a docking station with an antenna and a power adapter. These laptops will be installed in patrol vehicles to support on-duty officers. With this purchase, the city will activate 10 currently unused patrol vehicles, enhancing public safety and response capabilities. This scenario addresses who, what, when, where, why, and how. And it also provides a detailed cost breakdown. Another tip from the CJAC is to provide a strong problem statement. Here's a bad example. The city needs 2 fire trucks because ours are old. The statement is vague and doesn't explain why the trucks are needed or the impact of not having them. Here's a good example. Our fire station needs 2 new trucks. With these extra trucks, we can decrease response times for our 3,000 people population by 20% from 10 minutes to 8 minutes. This statement explains the need in detail and highlights the specific benefit, which is reduced response times, and quantifies the impact of the community. The next tip from the CJAC. Give localized stats. This was repeated throughout the presentation process, and applicants were constantly asked about localized stats. A good place to get localized stats is to read your organization's info, such as annual reports, strategic plans, and other planning documents, or finding a trusted source. Some good ones include census.gov and peer-reviewed journals. And the last tip from the CJAC. Please send a knowledgeable presenter. The person that comes to present this to the CJAC should be closely related to the project and be able to answer questions on all aspects of the project. Please remember these grants are very competitive. If your application is not successful, don't be discouraged. Learn from the feedback if provided and consider revising your proposal for a future application. I would like to leave you with some final reminders, which is to submit your project summary sheet by the deadline of February 13th and also come present your project to the CJAC. This will be the time where I'm going to take any questions you guys may have, and here's also my contact information. Thank you.